Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. This is Thunder Ducky, and before I get started with this Acolyte review, thank God the final episode. I just want to say thank you. It has been an outstanding last couple of days. Unfortunately, it started off with the hugely tragic yet historically stamped event with the attempted assassination of one President Donald Trump. But I have to say thank you guys for swinging over and checking out my reaction to They Missed, which jumped this channel a lot. I think I was at about 500, maybe 511, and now I'm all the way up to 542. It has been an outstanding last couple of days, so I just want to start by saying thank you everybody who has decided to subscribe over here. No, for those of you that are here for my gaming stuff, this is not turning into a political channel. I have a political channel that I started. It's called Maganiac, like a, maniac type thing, play on words. I will have that posted here. I don't have any content for it yet as of the recording of this video, but I will here soon. And ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and hop into the review for Acolyte Episode 8. Which, god damn, we're just gonna hop into it. But the Acolyte, episode 8. We're just gonna, again, I got a list. We're just gonna go through all of it. Of course, every one of these things happen in order because I take notes as I watch something. So none of this is necessarily the entire episode all the way through. It's more like things that I saw that drove me insane. For example, the first thing I have listed is Osha has a vision when she has the Smilo-Ren helmet on. Smilo's eyes go full black. Like, I'm talking supernatural demon possession, all black. And then she takes the helmet off. She has no expression from the vision, which is May killing Soul. Now, Soul up to this point was kind of like a father figure to her. So once again, proof that Amanda Stenberg cannot act because her facial expression doesn't change at all. When the father figure that she has kind of attached herself to is being killed by her sister after her parents died, that was her next parental figure that she attached herself with. And there's no tears, there's nothing upset. It's literally just brick wall. A lot like the way Reva acted in her, I don't remember that, Moses Ingram, something like that. The way that she portrayed Reva in the Obi-Wan show. And to quote, because Osha says that May killed Soul. She had a lightsaber in her hand, but she used the Force to kill him. And then Smilo says she can kill without a weapon. Because if you recall, the whole point behind her was to kill a Jedi without a weapon. Well, you're not quite right, because a weapon, one of the definitions is a means of gaining an advantage or defending oneself in a conflict or contest. She would have been defending herself because there's no way Soul would just go. And, yeah, so she still used a weapon. The Force is a weapon, depending on how you use it. Anything is a weapon, depending on how you use it. The spoon. This empty jar of Jif peanut butter, which I have no clue why I still have this. This almost completely used deodorant stick. My remote. Fingernail clippers. Wallet. This motherfucking house key is a weapon depending on how you use it. And according to some people, my words are violent. So, that's also another weapon, I guess. Well, let's see. Soul almost has May in a tractor beam, because May obviously escapes, when Basil, the sniffer weasel, destroys the controls or power to the ship. So, aiding and abetting a criminal/murderer. Yes, Basil, the one who used his little sniffer to find May on the Forest planet with the Wookiee Jedi, decides to help her, and there is no explanation throughout the entire episode why he did that. None. You know what I was actually thinking about? He looks like a mini Bothan. Like, is this like Bothans and then they had an evolutionary phase? That's what he kind of looks like. And they keep referring to Anakin's story. There's a scene where Leslie Headland's wife meets with a senator who looks familiar. I couldn't quite place him. I thought at first he was the guy who did the Allstate commercials. The black dude, not the new dude who gets hurt all the time. But then he spoke and his voice wasn't that deep, so I was like, no, that's not the same guy. He looks actually. I think he's the guy who played the Martian Manhunter in the Supergirl show. Yeah. And he has a quote where he says, "And when, not if, the Jedi snap, who will be strong enough to stop him?" It doesn't use the word them or it to express the Jedi as a group. It specifically says him. So apparently the senator can tell the future. Who knows? And here's the thing too that pissed me off. So we have Osha and Smilo Ren getting on his ship to leave together because Osha knows through her vision where May and Sol are going to be. So they leave together, and that's the deal. Is she takes them there, and then they kind of are going to let May make her decision on who she's going to go with, I guess. We see a hand creep onto the side of the cave wall, and then it shows Darth Plagueis. Straight up shows Darth Plagueis. Now, I'm going to give you guys that may not be Star Wars aficionados this little thing called the Rule of Two. Now, the Rule of Two was created by Darth Bane 1,000 years before the events of the movies. So that would put this whole Rule of Two thing in practice for at least 800 years at this point. Maybe closer to 900. So Smilo Ren is trying to break this rule by having May and then Osha as his apprentice with Darth Plagueis there. So they are actively trying to break the Rule of Two. And Darth Plagueis is just going to stand there in a cave, creeping, by the way, and not do anything about it. Now, some are probably going to say, well, maybe they're doing this to keep the Sith hidden. Then why would Smilo Ren have made the comments that he made to Sol whenever he fought them? I want to come out of hiding and be able to use my abilities the way I see fit. They're probably going to say, well, Darth Plagueis wanted to create a new Sith, or it don't matter. You're breaking canon. You're breaking what George Lucas made. You're breaking the Rule of Two, which is fundamental since Darth Bane, and you're trying to ruin shit that does not need ruined, okay? And then Master Sol leaves Basil on the ship solo after damaging the ship, which allowed May to escape. So not only did Basil, and Sol saw him, after he did the act, destroy the tractor beam or power to the ship, whatever, he then leaves Basil there by himself, not locking him up, not putting him in like some kind of containment field. Nothing. This dude just committed treason on a person that is wanted for killing a couple Jedi Masters. And Sol did nothing about it. Which is either still them trying to show that the Jedi are incompetent and stupid, or they're really trying to show in the creep factor of Sol wanting May and Osha. Either way, it's fucked up. And then it shows Osha and Smilo Ren at the main gate, the elevator, whatever. And Osha comes out and she's like, well, basically, the only way we're going to be able to get in is we have to fix this elevator. You hear this weird little sound, and then you hear, are you sure? And he's just gone. So now what? There's forced teleportation? That's never been a thing. Unless the implication was he jumped up and then made it up there. But the way it's set up, it's like he teleported. As far as I know, and I read a good amount of the books, I played a lot of the games, forced teleportation is not a thing. It's not a thing. And there's a confrontation between Soul and Smilo that makes no sense, of them constantly going back and forth to each other. There's a slow-mo scene which they definitely stole from The Matrix. And they each shut off their lightsabers every now and then while they're fighting, and they're using that as an excuse, I bet, to just have martial arts. Well, it was a practice that each one kind of agreed upon, if my memory serves me correctly, to where you wouldn't shut off your lightsaber during a fight. That was considered like the most taboo way to fight with a lightsaber on both sides. So the fact that they're both doing it just willy-nilly is very, very odd. And then, of course, we finally get confirmation that Smilo Ren was Leslie Headland's wife's former apprentice. You know, the green bald lady Jedi. So those were lightsaber whips on his back. Let's see. After Osha kills Soul, she has his lightsaber, which, by the way, is supposed to be broken. And she holds it and ignites it, and the blade turns from blue to red, which is like the only tidbit out of this entire show that I actually liked, because there are instances where one's anger, when they're a Jedi, have turned the blade red. If I find some examples, I'll edit them in, but it has happened before. I just can't recall off the top of my head, which I thought was kind of interesting that they actually managed to show that. Now, whenever Leslie Headland's wife gets there, she's got at least 10 Jedi Knights with her. She sends 2 to check the premises, inside the castle, because they're on the planet where May and Osha lived when they were kids. And then she tells the others, she says, the rest of you set up a 5-click perimeter. Not 10 seconds later, we see all the Jedi with Basil, because they're trying to use him to track down May or Osha. Either one. And it's insane to think that, okay, when you tell somebody to set up a 5-click perimeter, this is a perimeter, right? Not a group batched together, running through a specific line to follow the tracker. So either it was a complete waste of time to tell them to set up a perimeter when they could have just used the tracker, which proves or shows that Leslie Headland's wife is incompetent at her job. Because at first she says to go and check the rest of the house or the castle. The rest of you set up a perimeter. Then the Jedi Knight she's been talking to majority of the time, she tells to use the tracker. So that would be like him and 2 other Jedi Knights. The rest of them should be fanning out looking for what they can find. Not all grouped together. Now it's gotten to a point where they're back at the tree and Osha and May are there, and Smilo Ren shows up and he's like, well, if I can find you, the Jedi can. And then he says that he can use the Force to erase all the memories from May, because Osha decides to go with Smilo Ren in exchange that May gets to go. And he says, well, I can use the Force to eliminate all the memories from her. Now, if I recall correctly, this has happened before with Revan in the Knights of the Old Republic. But if I also recall correctly, it took Jedi Masters doing it. It wasn't just some hippie, want to be cool kind of dude. And that whole scene, again, doesn't really make sense, because they finally get together after hunting each other down and 16 years apart, just for them to split up. And then the implication is now that the Jedi Master, Leslie Headland's wife, wants to use May to find Osha, and Osha is now being trained by Smilo Ren. So they flipped spots. This whole show, the whole 8 episodes, was them just flipping spots. And you not only do you have them flipping spots, but both of them are doing what each one vehemently said they were not going to do. Osha didn't want to join the dark side. She wanted to be a Jedi from a child. She wanted to do good, apparently, and wanted to be a Jedi. And then you had May, who was out for revenge because she believes that the Jedi killed her parents willy-nilly, or parent willy-nilly. Now you got May helping the Jedi, and you got Osha helping the Sith. Make that make sense. And there's this big old crying scene between the two of them where they recite that weird little lesbian song to each other, and they're like hugging, and there's these tears come down, but of course, Amanda Stenberg has like this kind of face, and she's like, and to her credit, there are some tears coming down, but they probably sprinkled water on her. So there's no emotional connection here because there's the lack of emotion and no character development between either of them. Then it ends, and I was expecting like a Marvel end scene to kind of set up a season 2, because every show wants to set up a season 2, even if it's a show that's done so bad as to receive a 13% and not get higher than a 14%. But we got a scene where she walks, Leslie Headland's wife, walks into a room at the Jedi Temple and says, "Sorry to disturb you, Master. We need to talk." And she's talking to Yoda. They actually show Yoda. So we got Darth Plagueis and we got Yoda. Now there's no setup to where they're like, oh, a Jedi Master or a Jedi from the High Council is here. None of that. Like we got to be careful, because this whole thing's a whole plot. She didn't want the Jedi Council to know what was going on from the jump when we were first introduced to her character, because she's also trying to play politics. And then we didn't. Carrie Ann Moss was like, well, we don't want the Jedi Council to know. So we'll just say that it was May who destroyed the planet, or the witch's castle. And then it just, poof, here's Yoda. So the way they're making it seem is that Yoda's been here the whole time. So now, are they saying that Yoda is incompetent to where he wouldn't have sensed that there was something going on? That he wouldn't have known that they were doing something up to this point? And again, if you want to make it set up, and I'm attributing this to poor writing, if you want to set this up, what you should have done is had a scene where they say someone's here from the High Council, and then she's like, who? And then the knight looks at her and does like some kind of indication, and she like puts her head back like, oh shit, and that would indicate that someone's there, and the only person who could have been alive at that point that anybody would have recognized would have been Yoda. That would have been a better way to do it. There's probably 100 better ways to have done it, and she failed at all of them. And once again, the whole point behind this was the death of the mother, because we don't even know what happened to Korra. We didn't see Korra die. She turned into a mist thing and then just disappeared. She wasn't in the body of the pile of witches that died from doing their little hocus pocus. So she's still out there somewhere, and the soul killing the mother just makes sense, because she was turning into some kind of mist thing. She was turning May into some kind of mist thing. And to Soul's credit, he has no clue what's going on. And the fact that he's seeing this child disintegrate in front of him is perfect. I would have done it. I would have done the same thing. And then they have this whole setup to where Leslie Headland's wife like sees the past, sees the events that happen, which we kind of got to see with what's his name, Cal Kestis in the Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order games, where he can kind of tap into the Force and see previous events. And so she knows what happened. She saw it. And she then calls Soul a traitor, that he's the one who killed all the Jedi, that he went rogue. So there's something wrong with Leslie Headland's wife's Jedi character. Because if anybody realistically had seen what was happening with Osha, and you were there to quote unquote get them and protect them, and Soul was still a creeper. He was designed to be a creeper throughout this entire show. You wouldn't have questioned it, the fact that she was misting. Like, you wouldn't question that shit. So, all in all, the Acolyte, absolutely terrible. It should have gotten way lower than a 13%. And they've thrown these little nuggets of characters that we know of from the books. By the way, they're bringing in parts of previous books. They're like cherry picking. to keep people interested or to bump up the show itself. Because I hopped on Twitter just a little bit ago, and the number one trending thing was Plagius. So they're trying to put butts in the seats, technically speaking, to watch their failing show or failed show now that it's over. And it's just poor writing. They decanonize all this, basically saying that it doesn't exist anymore. But now, trying to get people to come back to Disney Star Wars, they're bringing in all this stuff that we as fans, or at least the real fans, have seen, and they're bringing it in to get you like enthused with the show, in love with the show, and they're doing it all wrong. They did it with Ki-Adi-Mundi at first, and they did it with Cortosis. Now they did it with Plagius and with Yoda. It's like, I thought the whole point behind this was we weren't going to see anything previously in Star Wars, like character-wise. This was supposed to be its own thing in its own time. But we've seen Plagius, we've seen Ki-Adi-Mundi, and we saw Yoda. Now, granted, we haven't seen Plagius on TV before, technically. There's a fan theory that Plagius can be seen in the Senate meeting during the Phantom Menace. But that's not confirmed by anybody that I know of. And so I guess in a tidbit that was different. But it's still a well-known character because of Palpatine's speech to Anakin, do you know the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? So they're doing exactly what they said they weren't gonna do in their show, and I'm rambling now at this point. So, ladies and gentlemen, this show sucked. If you watched it, I'm sorry. If you watched my reviews, thank you very much. But let me know what you thought down in the comments below. What did you think of the show in your honest opinion? If you liked it, that's perfectly on you. You're okay to like it. That's your choice, not mine. I absolutely hated every single aspect of this. The only tidbit was the blue lightsaber turning red through her anger. That's it. And that was like 3 seconds out of 8 episodes. Yeah. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everybody who has checked out any of my reviews for the Acolyte, and I will catch y'all in my next video. Adios, folks.